Jimmy Lakey on the radio. I got my coffee and cream. Jimmy's on the air. Wake up and start your day. Now go and tell all the neighbors, yeah. Then crank up the radio. There's infotainment, brilliant to get you on your way. Wake up and start your day with Jimmy Lakey.
Thank you to the ladies and gentlemen, the Brother Leroy and the Jimmy Lakey Mass Choir, singing to you every morning as they have for years. And boy, what a glorious choir they are when they get together. You ought to see them at a Christmas party. It's always fun when you have a Christmas
I
party.
love to listen in the morning.
I don't know why that's
Jimmy
starting.
Lakey on the radio.
The devil has
I
taken
got
a
my
sip.
coffee and cream.
I don't know what's going on. Yeah, somehow the music started again. But hey, we're glad to have an encore performance. You start talking about the ladies in the Christmas party, and they come on to sing again. Now, just because I compliment you doesn't mean I want to hear from you. Delilah, that includes you here at the Lakey Entertainment Towers. Just because I compliment you, which I don't usually, it doesn't mean I want to hear from you. So anyway, welcome to the program, everybody. Wednesday, hump day, halfway till Friday, April the 9th, year of our Lord 2025. I told you we got big announcements about the show. I'm streamlining a couple of things. I'll get to the first round of that announcement here in just a moment, because I know many of you are waiting with bated breath to find out what it is that's going to be tweaked about the Lakey Entertainment Plaza, or Towers, and the House of Lakey. Justin gets in. I think you'll all like the adjustments that we will announce shortly. Forthwith on this program, we shall announce those. A couple of the news stories, though. You ready for this? The administration. I see these headlines and I baffle us. Does this catch anybody else's off guard? Remember last week we heard of this, like $6 billion or $1 million, I think it's $1 billion, to Columbia University, and Harvard has endowments. These Ivy League schools have endowments that are larger than the budgets of third world countries. And yet the U.S. government is funneling them taxpayer dollars. Private sector universities getting billions, if not millions, if not billions of dollars. And you scratch your head and say, really? We've got a lot of other projects that probably could be funded, a lot of other people and universities and school systems that could be helped. And you're doling money out to Harvard and to Columbia. And now we have an announcement this morning or yesterday that the administration is freezing another $4 million for Princeton. I know Doge is looking at waste, fraud, and abuse, but just the fact that we're giving Ivy League, private sector schools billions of dollars every year makes you scratch your head and say, how does that not get tagged as waste? Good for the Trump administration for flagging that. If anybody would like to climb the water tower of streamcasting this morning, go to the chat rooms and let us know if you're for the federal funding of billions of dollars to places like Harvard and Columbia and Yale and Princeton or Stanford getting billions of dollars. I understand sometimes you fund research, but a lot of times when you have, that's what they call it. But other times it's just blanket grants that they get. And it's really troubling they do that. And when a lot of times they also, whoever's paying for the grant is usually whose science that you follow. And that's why you had a lot of scientists that were afraid to stand up against the booger cootie virus and the old COVID-19 science that was out there because they didn't want to lose funding from the federal government by saying something that would have made Dr. Fauci upset. But anyway, administration has freezed $4 million for Princeton. We're well into, I think, $1 billion for these Ivy League schools in the past week. That has been frozen. And I just beseech you, therefore, brethren, to contemplate and consider when you're trying to rub two nickels together to buy groceries and you're sitting there standing there going, thank God the price of eggs is coming down. Thank God it is, right? But you're still staring at the grocery store going, it ain't exactly, Bidenomics has still got a grip on us. Just remember, and rest in peace, my friends, that billions of dollars are going to Ivy League schools out of your pocket and billions of dollars. Anyway, nice to have all of you here with that wonderful story. All of you in Colorado, we talked about this with Laura Carno yesterday, the Colorado State Legislature, who is one of the most bat crap crazy legislatures in America, controlled by radicalized Dems. And then we have a governor who pretends, and he's narcissistic, but pretends he's a libertarian. He's one of those radicalized governors in the United States of America. He looks at Gavin Newsom and says, God, I wish I could get by with half the crap you get by with. Um, they're passing all sorts of laws. Our legislature goes into session every year for about 180 days, if I recall, and they're in session right now. So they're in session 120 days, something like that. They're in session. And they're passing some bills that will be, if Governor Polis are already on his desk, if Governor Polis signs them here in Colorado, we will have some of the most restrictive gun laws in America. And you know what happens in places where there's restrictive gun laws? Look at Chicago, very big gun laws and a very high crime rate. And so prepare yourselves. Colorado is already under the leadership of Jared Polis leading the nation in things like auto theft and petty crimes and bank robberies. I mean, we're a top nation crime haven here in Colorado. And if Jared Polis signs this bill, it's going to get worse here for the criminals, because the criminals are not going to get the background checks. The criminals are not going to go try to legally purchase a gun. That's not necessarily how it works. Well, here's an interesting story that's out there. My friend Sherry Pife, if you're outside of the state, she writes for a website called CompleteColorado.com. She was a regular guest and even a fill-in guest sometimes on the terrestrial radio show. She has a story up at Complete Colorado that Coloradoans are evidently not real happy with the stupidity of our governor and legislature, and they're not happy knowing that they're going to have their guns rights restricted by this governor who claims to be a libertarian, and he's not. He's a fraud, and he's a fraud. Data put out by the Federal Bureau of Investigations in Colorado reports the number of background checks this month shows a trend in Colorado that relates to the gun rights restrictions being pushed through the legislature every year at this time. For years, in the spring of the year, Colorado residents appear to race to secure their new gun purchases during the latter part of the legislative session, when a majority of Democrats are known to rapidly advance their anti-gun agenda. This is what the Democrats here in this state do. They work under the cover of darkness, and controversial bills they rushed to it the last time. They've even tried to have 3 readings. They've even tried to read them by speed reading and been shut down by courts. To date, the legislature has introduced in Colorado a lot of other fish to fry in Colorado, a lot of other problems they could be solving, like how to get stripes on the road that you can actually see with reflective qualities. What about the potholes? What about our dreary public school system and the test results that just suck? No, the legislature in Colorado has introduced 22 bills dealing with gun rights and restrictions in some fashion. Of those, 18 restrict your rights, and many of those are awaiting Governor Polis's signature. There are 4 that expand rights, 3 of which have already lost, and 2 are relatively neutral, and they're awaiting hearings. But the big ones are the ones that restrict rights. They always pass them, and then they give them over to their whipping boy, Jared Polis, and Jared Polis whips his signature out there on that, and it's all there. But it's fascinating. There's a trend in Colorado that every time the legislature gets in session and every time the governor gets his pen ready to sign things, FBI background checks soar as they decide to be as Coloradoans decide that we got to arm up and stock up, because our government here in the state of Colorado doesn't want us to have that Second Amendment freedom that our founders said should not be infringed upon. So anyway, it's an interesting number. The story is at Complete Colorado. You're welcome to go see that. Our friend Sherry Pife has written that and breaks down the numbers there. I come back to that question I had, though, about the universities. How do billions of dollars go to all these schools, and why is it tolerated, and why is this not something? There's some things that I think on communications for these politicians and parties would be low-hanging fruit that I think most people can say, yeah, it's probably stupid to send Harvard bazillions of dollars and Princeton bazillions of dollars, and yet somehow that doesn't seem to make the news. It's kind of passed off. We're going to stop the spending. Why we're funding them? If somebody can explain that, I would love to hear it. And sometime when I have a politician on next and they vote to fund these universities that are private sector universities year after year, and that is one good way to keep them in line. If they fund them, then they have to kind of teach the propaganda machine. This is why Hillsdale College doesn't take federal government money, because they can teach the Constitution, they can teach originalism, they can teach freedom. And so this is one of the ways that the government uses, hey, we'll give you billions, but hey, don't be teaching that there's only 2 genders. Don't be teaching that. Don't be teaching anything that goes against the propaganda line. So it's a way that they keep these Ivy League schools in line. And yeah, Rich says this, they've been funded for the indoctrination flashing across the screen. And Rich, you're absolutely right. That's how they keep them in line. And that's how they fuel these tenured professors to keep their jobs. And it's a ruse. And just remember that when you're standing at the grocery store, you're standing at the gas pump, You're standing out there wondering why you haven't gotten a cost of living raise. Or you're sitting there wondering when your tax season and you're about to pay the IRS bill, you're sitting to wonder, what the heck did I do wrong? Why am I being punished here? Well, no, everybody got to get to work today. We've learned this since President Trump took office here. Everybody got it. We're going to be here for an hour. I got to get you all out of here because we've got to go through USAID, fund Mozambique circumcisions. We've got to do the Sesame Street in Iraq. And we also need to go to work today. Hardworking guys. Take a couple of extra calls if you're a plumber. Take a couple of extra clients today, even if you bust your ass to go to find some success out there, so that we can all send Princeton $4 million in funding and billions of dollars to Ivy League schools. So as you're singing like one of the Seven Dwarfs, hi ho, it's off to work I go. Remember, you're off to work so that you can fund the pet projects of the deep state bureaucracy. And don't forget the Mozambique circumcisions. That's a very important thing. All of you woke up this morning and put your feet on the carpet and said, I can't wait to go to the work on this day the Lord has made, because I've got to go fund those circumcisions in Mozambique. And, I'm going to work overtime tonight, Mabel, because I need to pay more taxes to Princeton. Said nobody ever, but we allow it to happen in this country. All right, I got a big announcement about the show. We're making it twice this morning, and we'll repeat it throughout the week. That's coming up in just a minute. So gather around, pop your popcorn, and we'll tell you, I think, some big news. I think it's big. Producer Chad and I had a late night meeting contemplating even some new formats of content, and we had tequila. So I hope we remember our new form of content, but I think it's going to be really good. I'll get the first round of the announcement coming up here in just a moment. A new round of books is out, though. Everybody wants to tell the story of Joe Biden. All these people that lied to you and said that Joe Biden could run circles around every younger staff and they couldn't keep up with his policy. Now they're telling all that Joe Biden was really slow and Joe Biden was really, really behind the scenes. And this inner circle they were keeping it secret, but they were arguing, don't tell, it's not true. They were gaslighting each other. Everybody's wanting to tell a tell-all because they know that their political future, at least for now, is on hold, and so they're trying to make some money by writing a book. But remember, if they were willing to lie to you about the state of mind of the most powerful man on the planet, all for the sake of political power, don't fund their book sales and don't think they're going to tell you the full truth. If they were willing to lie to pad their own pocket to keep a job in administration and access to power, then maybe they're willing to lie and prevaricate and work around the edges and color outside the lines just so they can pad their own pocket with the book sales. So remember, these are the charlatans and liars that lied to you about Biden in the first place. And don't think that they won't lie to you again, because for them, it's all about self-preservation and it's all about making the buck and it's all about being somebody that people think they're somebody. So just beware of all these books. I'm sure there's a modicum of truth in there, but beware of them indeed, because again, these people lied. They lied when they didn't tell you the story. How do you think they're going to tell you the story truthfully? And you're going to get the full skinny on it. Now, there is a new book out that is talking about Obama and the Kamala Harris sudden nomination when Joe Biden mysteriously signed his name. Maybe he signed his name. He dropped out of the race. Remember that he dropped out of the race, and it was a frenzy. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And Kamala, up until that point, had always been somebody that they had talked about. Some of you leftists that sang the praise of Kamala Harris are disingenuous liars, which shouldn't surprise us, really. But they were actually polling as Biden was heading towards the second term about dumping Kamala from the ticket because she was a disgrace and an embarrassment, and she was an intellectually, let's say, very shallow bowl. she was a box of crayons that didn't have the pencil sharpener in it. She was. They knew she was problematic. And they wanted to get rid of her, they being the party elites, but they couldn't spin it. They had enough problems keeping Biden strung together, and he had just finally learned Kamala's name, so they didn't want to confuse the old guy. So they kept Kamala on. So remember, Biden steps down, and there's all the talk, and I think what this Obama revelation is Obama opposed behind the scenes Kamala's nomination. Remember, when Kamala stepped down, Kamala did not get an immediate endorsement from anybody. It was just she was going to become the nominee. That was kind of it. They're going to have an open convention, and then everything changed. And here's what changed. What changed is, here's what I think happened. I think Obama was opposed to Kamala's nomination because Obama was astute enough to know that Kamala's a problem, and she had been a laughingstock of the party just a couple of months before. And just because she becomes nominee, winning no primaries, doesn't mean that she's any more of a palatable candidate. It's just a pig you're going to have to put lipstick on. And so Obama was opposed to this. And I talked to, it was Joe Klein we talked to, interview. And we believe, and I believe, I know he wrote a book on it, that what they were hoping to do is scorch Biden off, go to an open convention, and then with the open convention, guess what they wanted to do? They wanted to come in and have Michelle Obama be the nominee. That's a lot of the speculation, and I tend to agree that Michelle was going to be, she's going to be called to duty, and therefore she could beat the Trump train, possibly. That's what they thought. Well, Joe Biden was not happy that he got pushed to the curb. And if you remember, within an hour or so of Kamala Harris on that Sunday, or Joe Biden stepping down, Joe Biden sent out a second note via Twitter, and he announced his endorsement of Kamala Harris. She's going to be a great president. And all of a sudden, it put everybody else in a frenzy that Obama didn't come out for days and support Kamala because he wanted the open convention. But Joe Biden then caused people to go to the Clintons and say, Clintons, who do you want? Well, the Clintons hate the Obamas, and they nobody likes each other. And the Clintons looked at the Obamas and said, well, if we endorse Kamala, we're going to block Michelle Obama out of this thing. And so they came out, and Biden and Clinton's endorsed, and that caged in Barack Obama. Anyway, the story's being told that Obama opposed Kamala's nomination, which I think I already knew that had happened, but behind the scenes, the bickering and how much they actually just hate each other. And yet they go out there and for propaganda and power, try to convince you that Kamala's the girl and Kamala's the first female member of the global elites or whatever. They try to convince you all this stuff, but behind the scenes, you find out they were lying Sacagawea is what they were, lying Sacagaweas. So interesting book there. All right, let me give the announcement here. One of the first announcements we're doing. When we started this 3 or 4 months ago, I had just been poop canned from the radio, and the kingdom of iHeart had decided that they no longer wanted local personality on a certain radio station, so they graciously showed me the door. By the way, I wish I'd stop promoting my show. I tune into that station sometimes because they have a couple of programs I like to tune into, and I still hear that I'm hosting tomorrow. Evidently, I'm still on the air right now, but I'm not. Nobody pays attention to that station. They never did, even when I was there. Nobody's even changed the liners on the station. I'm Jimmy Lakey. I'll be on station. No, yeah, I'm not. I've been on for months. And so producer Chad and I got together to decide to put some content out. We're going to start it after the first of the year. Then I said, producer Chad, I think I'm going to go live. I'll be out of sight, out of mind. I'm going to go live right a week or so before Christmas and just kind of test the waters out there. And we started this live daily update, which is going to continue. Don't panic. They're going to continue. And then we launched a Patreon page, and Patreon was going to fund the House of Lakey as far as getting us growing the kingdom and more equipment and more expansion, we visions of it. And a lot of folks said, when can we listen to you? We say, listen live. And if you miss it live, go to all the feeds, and we stay live there all day long. The point is, the bottom line is what we're doing as of today. If you were a Patreon subscriber, free or unfree, paid or unpaid, your membership has been paused. We paused them a few days ago. You will not be charged moving forward. All the content that's behind the Patreon paywall is actually now going to go on. We're actually on a Lakey Unleashed podcast, traditional podcast. Go to iHeartRadio, go to Apple Podcasts. You type in my name, you'll see Jimmy Lakey Unleashed, and download and listen to the show on your favorite podcast. Now, it's not just going to be the interviews. For instance, the JFK interview with Robert Tannenbaum I did this week, and the one with Dennis Neal about Elon Musk. All of those have already migrated to an actual podcast, and you can listen to them anytime. Also, this live version that's happening starts at 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. Every day, as soon as the show is over, this show will also go live as a podcast. And so our goal here is to just grow the audience. And the way algorithms work in this world of podcasting and streamcasting is you want eyeballs. And we have been very happy with a no-name little redheaded stepchild of broadcast media, Jimmy Lakey, being able to do what we're doing, but it's I wish you would help us grow the audience even further. So go look up Lakey Unleashed, and we're going to every day. Not if you miss this show live or you want to go back and listen to it throughout the day, you can now find it on your podcast platform. So wherever it is you're listening to platforms of a podcast, you should be able to find Lakey Unleashed, Jimmy Lakey Unleashed on there now. And we're going to treat this content and all the things that were behind the paywall as free stream content on all the podcast platforms. So all of you Patreon subscribers, you're welcome. I'm saving you $9.95 a month, and we paused all memberships a couple of days ago, and there's still some things back there that we haven't put out there. If you want to scroll through the whole library, but we got a lot of interviews back there that have happened in the last couple of months. So there's your big news. This is now not just a streamcast live, but it will also be a podcast, and podcasted content is king, and consistency. And every day there's going to be something new up there on the streamcast, even if it's just a live the podcast, even if it's just a live show. Again, look up Lakey Unleashed or Jimmy Lakey Unleashed on your favorite podcast platform. Now, also on the podcast platform, not only will this show be there after the fact, the live show, keep watching us live. We'd love to have you. Hopefully the people that listen to the podcast will say, oh, we can watch the show live. They'll come do that. We're also talking about some other new content. A lot of the stuff we've been doing here is focused on the video element, but we're thinking of what in the business they call the spoken word content. And it's going to be Brother Jimmy telling some stories, and kind of like the old Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. We're going to be adding some elements like that. So we're going to describe and read and tell you now. It'll be spoken word, and then it'll be just a podcast, biographical for the most part. I think you'll find it if you're a history buff. I think you're going to enjoy that. And that's going to kick off here real soon as well. So going to be not just the Lakey Unleashed on your podcast platform, but also you can watch it live still. You're going to get that and all the stuff behind the Patreon page. You're no longer being charged. We're going to hide that for a while, and we're going away from the Patreon model, and all the content out there is now free. And so, yeah, and we appreciate the support, but we decided it's big in the world that we're in to have numbers, and that's how we're going to get the numbers, and you're going to help us get the numbers. It's when you also find us on the podcast platform, make sure you hit subscribe. That's a big deal, because then you're automatically notified. You'll be notified every time we put up a new. As a matter of fact, after the show today, I've got a person that I'll be interviewing about the COVIDs and the vaccines, stuff like that. And that's going to be interviewed, and that's going to go out. And as soon as that gets uploaded on the new platforms, then you'll get a notification, so you can actually be automated and make sure you never miss an episode. And all the content that we've kept behind the paywall, moving forward, that will no longer be behind the paywall. It's all going to be a podcasting, streamcasting, all for the sake of growing the audience. All right? You're welcome. Thank you, and I appreciate you. For those of you who have not followed the Patreon page, you will be able to follow the Patreon page, and also the YouTube. We will also, if you want the video purpose on all the streaming, if you want to watch the paywall stuff, or if you want to watch the actual show. Of course, podcast platforms don't show the video, but the video will also be on our YouTube channel. So we'll keep that YouTube channel up to date and happy, and we'll make sure all the interviews that go up there go up on our YouTube page as well. The current interview behind the paywall right now is about the JFK assassination. And here we go. Listen to this. This is a tease of it. And this is as of today. We stopped the billing on the Patreon page a few days ago, and as of today, this is available free for everybody on this. It's about the JFK files. Robert Tannenbaum, former prosecutor. Go.
And both of them were shot. Both Kennedy and Connolly were hit between 1.9 seconds of each other. Now you know what's coming up. Zapruder frame is 18.3 frames per second. If Kennedy and Connolly were hit at a separation of 1.9 seconds, guess what cannot be used as the murder weapon? The Mannlicher Carcano. Why? Because the Mannlicher Carcano takes 2.3 seconds to go through the manual bolt action necessary to fire separate successive shots. So now they're out. They just lost their murder weapon.
So there's sorry, I was reading reading a transcript on that to see if it matched up. Also, here we have it, my friends. Another one from the JFK interview. This is all now free. Patreon, we have paused all the billing. You're going to keep your $9.95 a month, and you're going to get all this content for free, including this interview is up there now. Again, go to your favorite platform, subscribe to the show, look up Jimmy Lakey Unleashed. We're going to be doing some other great content through the Critical Mission. I have 2 podcasts that are active, and this will the Unleashed and then the Critical Mission, and both of those are going to have great new content coming up very, very soon. And subscribe to both of them, please. Here we go. Another part of the interview.
During the investigation on December 22nd, 63, September 22nd, 63, and he was very critical of himself for permitting the Office of Strategic Services, which was the major intel organization during World War II, to morph into the CIA. And why? Because he believed that the CIA was becoming operational and had its own foreign policy. And there was so military, and there was no one there giving oversight. And as a matter of fact, Senator Schumer, in his ill wisdom, recently said when President Trump was dealing with the various intelligence agencies, sort of taking on, their absolutism that is way beyond the scope of the charge that they have. Keep in mind, those are people who are bureaucrats who are running the show in large measure. And so the bottom line here was that he recognized he had made a terrible mistake by permitting the CIA to go forward.
So that's true. It's really a really interesting interview, knowing what we know now about the Trump assassination attempts, and I think you'll find it. And it's all free now. We've again paused all the Patreon memberships. Those will no longer be in effect. You can put that $9.95 back towards buying eggs at the grocery store, and all of our content will be free. But here's how you're going to help us. You got to go to the platforms, the Apple Podcast, and just subscribe. And that way, every day in your player, you will have every asset that we're putting out there is going to be there. There's 2 podcasts, really. There's the Critical Mission, and then this show will always populate by about 10 o'clock Mountain Time, by noon Eastern Time. The daily update will be up on all the platforms. So if you miss it, just make sure you're a subscriber on all your podcast platforms. So there's your big change that we've been talking about. Again, the name of the game of this business is numbers, numbers, numbers. And that's how we got to get the numbers up. And you're going to help us do that. Subscribe, tell your friends, and automate it. And boom, it's all set. All right. So if you ever oversleep because, you went on a bender the night before and you missed the live show, you'll be able to watch the live show up on the YouTube every day, and you'll be able to listen to it in your streamcast or your podcast, and it's going to be exciting that you can do that. Very quickly, before I talk to Steve Laffey, I've got some questions I want him to set straight for me that I've been making about tariffs. I want to remind you that one of the ways that we've been successful the first couple of months of doing this is great sponsors. And one of our sponsors is Sherry Cree. And I want to thank Sherry and just her conversation about real estate. Listen, this is a great time of year. If you're in Colorado, that I-25 corridor, Sherry Cree supports this program, but she wants to support you. She wants to support you in all of your real estate transactions. I'm talking she wants to be your realtor for life. She's talked to people, and I've mentioned this story a couple of times now. She's talked to people, then talked to them and kind of interviewed and kind of get to know you. And she sometimes doesn't want to take a client. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. So it's got to be a mutual relationship. And she talked to a person, thought they were going to sell the home, and then she didn't hear from them. They kind of ghosted. And like 2 or 3 years later, they called her and said, "Hey, Sherry, we're ready to do it." She thought she had lost them as clients. She thought, well, they didn't like me. No, they were taking her advice and say, that's great advice. And they held where they were at, and made a great real estate decision by not moving as hastily and quickly as they wanted to. And they just paused, and she gave them a perspective that they didn't have. She went to a neighborhood party, I think in Thornton, Colorado recently. And she said she was the most hated and the most loved person there. The people that were moving into retirement, going to downsize, moving out of state in their retirement years, they didn't want to languish on. They were ready to go. And Sherry got their home sold real quick. So with that people, she was very popular. But all the neighbors were kind of mad and saying, why did you have to sell it so quick? We thought if you were like the average realtor, it's going to languish on the market for a while and we'd get more time with their friends. But you sold this thing quick. It's a quick closing and they're moving. So that's how she became the most hated and the most loved person at a party. Listen, Homes with Sherry. .com. Go to our website, homeswithsherry.com. Have that conversation, have that consultation. And again, it's not going to cost you a thing, just going to have a conversation. And she can help you also with the seasons of buying, selling. And right now is a perfect time because inventory is still a little bit low. And a lot of folks start loading the market up with their inventory, want to sell about May or June. But actually, the statistics say by June, the showings actually go down because people are getting busy with summer activities and vacations. So, man, now's the time to take action and get that plan in place. HomesWithSherry.com, Windsor, Wellington, Fort Collins, Fort Lupton, Greeley, Loveland, Aurora, Parker, Boulder, Broomfield. I'm just kind of going up and down the map here. You get the idea. Castle Rock, she'll help you there as well. HomesWithSherry.com, HomesWithSherry.com. And as always, make sure you tell her you heard about her on the Lakey program, the Lakey Unleashed, HomesWithSherry.com. All right. Got a couple of questions. We're, a week past the Liberation Day. I love calling it Liberation Day. I think that's funny. I like it. But we're about a week past it. And some people are still squawking about the tariffs. Some people are saying just give it time. Some people say it's the best thing ever. All sorts of people. Everybody's got an opinion, and not all of them are correct. Not all of them are correct. But I've heard a couple of things I want Steve Laffey, who's a guru on this stuff, to explain to me. And I got a couple of questions, and he's got some topics on the tariffs as well. Steve Laffey, good morning, sir. Welcome in.
Jimmy, great show. Great to talk to you.
Good to talk to me. I ask you some questions about tariffs because I've heard people that critiqued the tariffs and defended them. And one of the things that the critics of these tariffs say is it's an impossible task. Manufacturing will always be dead in America, where Americans aren't going to make tennis shoes, are not going to make T-shirts. And so why are we doing this? And they poo-poo the fact that manufacturing is something that Americans are really interested in. And they don't see it's a big deal. Trump says, hey, we need manufacturing base back here. Stop depending on China. But some of the critics say, no, we don't, and we can't get it here. They say the unemployment rate, we don't have enough employees.
These are my New Balance tennis shoes. They're made in America. You mentioned?
Yeah.
All right. So to backtrack just theoretically and whatever, the truth is, yes, we can manufacture a lot more in America. It is because of communist China, and I made a movie about it. We've talked about it, you and I, for over 10 years, that they are the primary driver of destroying towns all throughout the Midwest, and everybody knew it. That's why in 2015 I said Trump will win the election. People, maybe even you, thought I was nuts. He did, because he was talking about China. He did nothing about it. But yes, we can raise the manufacturing base of America a lot. No problem. You just need some time. We have a North America Free Trade Agreement, which Trump signed off on the second time around, which really allows, to be simplifying again, cheaper stuff like aluminum we've talked about the last couple of weeks to come into our country because they make it cheaper, and we don't have the wherewithal, the permitting process. Can you imagine if someone in Colorado, in Fort Collins, said, I'm going to build a giant aluminum factory? Do you imagine what it would take, how many years, and so forth? So that's a good thing. And so we have to also think about the law of comparative advantage. If someone can make it a lot cheaper, great. The tie and people know me for this. I just showed you the sneakers I'm about to put on when I leave the show in a couple hours to work out. This tie's made in Vermont, but they didn't make the cotton in Vermont, right? They can't. They assemble it, right? The shirt I've got on, it was made in Seattle, Gitman Brothers, but they didn't make the cotton. So we can't deny and try to become like North Korea, what they call an autarky, which means you make everything in your house and people end up eating grass, right? Yeah. Everything in your country. So yes, of course we can. The problem that's going on today is, one, Trump took on all countries in the world at once. Bad idea. We're $30 trillion of GDP. The rest of the world is 80 some odd trillion dollars. The world is bigger than us, right? I said, take on communist China to you for 10 years, give it a number of years, raise the tariffs, and then pass laws, which here's the problem. Donald Trump refuses to go to the legislature. This is why this is not going to work. You go to the legislature and you say, we want 60% of all, name it, chips to be made in at least North America. And the federal government 5 years from now will buy only chips made in America to get this. So now they know they're going to buy it. Intel's going to buy it. You have to give them money. We are the richest country in the world. But President Trump, and the quote is somewhere here, it's somewhere on my desk, I can't find it now. His quote is that any trade deficit with any single country is bad. That is preposterous. There's nobody who believes that. We can have, so you write down some of the, jot down some of the reasons we would have trade deficits. One, we have been the world's reserve currency and the richest country in the world, and we've been growing faster than, say, Europe. Just by that, we'd have a trade deficit with them because we got a lot of rich people trying to buy stuff. Not all of it should be made in America because we don't grow blueberries in January for the most part, to be simple again, right? So the thought process that some of this manufacturing would come back to America, like we're going to have some sweatshops set up in Worcester, Mass, and they're going to make some T-shirts. I just showed you a New Balance sneaker. It's a very high-end sneaker, right? It does cost more, as people would know. Hickey Freeman, for example, I still wear Hickey Freeman suits. I bought them as cheap as I could. They cost more than buying the one at the local place made in China. If people started doing this, we can make more stuff here. But I'll give you an example. The really high-end engines that come out of like a Porsche, they're made in Germany. The really low-end engines or Cobra, whatever, they're made in China. The middle ones are made in Mexico. Can we make some of the high-end stuff in America? Yes, we have people that can do this, but they need 3 years to make the transition. And we don't. And President Trump, unfortunately, folks, is not giving you 3 years. I mean, this morning he's gonna raise the import tariffs on pharmaceuticals, which you and I have talked about
for years.
Years.
Yeah.
So all that was needed 10 years ago, not when Trump was president, or 8 years ago, or 6 years ago, was a 5-year time frame to say America is going to buy pharmaceuticals made in North America to start with, and 60% of that's going to be made in America. In San Juan in Puerto Rico, that's where a lot of these were made years ago. They still have the factories. I know it's not exactly America, but we can do a lot of this. In Cody, Wyoming, there's an empty factory making pharmaceuticals, empty. We can do a lot of it. We just needed time. And Trump, unfortunately, with his narcissism, is now lashing out. He's lashing out at people who are trying to save their congressional jobs next year. And where are they going to come from, Jimmy? They're going to come from Senator Ted Cruz in Texas because he's worried because we do a lot of trade with Mexico. They're going to come from the northern part of our country where there's some conservative people dealing with Canada, because people are about, and by the way, are starting to lose their jobs. Yep. Delta this morning said what? Delta reported earnings. They see I'm going to paraphrase the CEO. He doesn't want to say exactly this way. He sees a recession now. So this is terrible stuff, the way that Trump is handling it. The sycophants around him are saying, by the way, Scott Bessemer this morning, I watched it live. He said the problem with China, if they would stop their fentanyl, they went back to fentanyl this morning.
I saw the list out. They say that there's a 25% fentanyl fee, and then a 25% they've line itemed how they're breaking down these numbers are coming up.
The U.S. Treasury Secretary has said that they put to death drug traffickers within China, which they do. He thinks they need to do it for the people who send it to us. Now remember, this is the other fallacy of what Trump doesn't realize. People with dictatorships couldn't care less what we say. You and I have talked about it again for years. Putin doesn't care. He plays the game. He's not stopping. He's just going to keep going until he takes all of Eastern Europe back if he can. China wants Taiwan. They've stated, it's written down. They want to be the world superpower. They want to put the United States out of business. They'll take a long view to do so. They'll help Iran. North Korea is doing all they can by sending soldiers into Ukraine. The difference between those people and, say, France is that you can deal with France like you can a city council person, right? You can get them in a headlock and say, here's what we're doing, right? You can cajole them. You can have drinks with them. You can do whatever to get them to see your way. The Chinese is a dictatorship. They couldn't care less. They will make their people eat grass before they agree with Donald Trump. So this is a really bad situation. And the thing that I talked to you about in January, about a weaker dollar coming, the euro went from 103 to 110. The Swiss franc went from par to 117. The yen is stronger versus the dollar, is reducing our wealth. It's happening in front of us. And along the way, what people are surprised about, but what I told you not to be surprised about, is that real interest rates would go higher. And we just saw the biggest sell-off in the last 24 hours of 10-year treasuries that we've seen in years as a percentage basis, when Trump is putting more tariffs on, which should slow growth. That ought to have everybody's ears on fire. Because if you hit 5% on the U.S. Treasury when inflation is actually coming down, it has to, because the price of oil is coming down dramatically, right? And that feeds into everything. So with higher rates, we are having a recession. It's over.
The voice of Steve Laffey, by the way, since we're now switching, and this will also be available on podcast if you're just listening. That is Steve Laffey, Laffey. His website, stevelaffey.com, stevelaffey.com. And I got to remember, now that we're going to do the show live here in video, but later out the day, it'll be every podcast platform. Steve Laffey, his website, stevelaffey.com. Steve, it is amazing. You talk about Congress and Congress not doing anything or Trump not using Congress. We've been talking ever since the COVID crisis, if you will. We've been talking about how much of our pharmaceuticals are coming in from China. This isn't a supply chain. This is a lifeline. We've talked about the ability to manufacture ships, and China's producing ships all the time. These are things that, these industries maybe needed more time, but they've had a hell of a lot of time and they've not done it. Nobody's done anything about it. We've kvetched about the Chinese, but the Congress has not passed any law under Biden or Trump to force that to happen. That's a national. Some of these are national security issues, are they not?
And the blame goes to every president, every member of Congress since the year 2000 when they allowed China to go into the World Trade Organization. If they hadn't, we wouldn't have these problems. You cannot let somebody like China, because they have no females. Remember, they abort them, right? Mm-hmm. They got to keep their young people working. They won't. No one will have children anymore in China. They're a demographic disaster, right? But along the way, they become less of a democracy, like I said many years ago, in disagreement with all the super rich, very powerful people who ran all the companies who said, we've got to give them a good trade deal. They'll be a democracy. Never happened. So they were wrong. Where do we go to punish them? Like, why are they still in the news saying something new? So this is a terrible situation. And unfortunately, Donald Trump, if he had started and just done the great stuff on immigration, stuck with deregulation, only went after China by, like, let's say, like I've said, raise tariffs to 10%, then 20, then 30, and then pass laws with the Congress that we need this stuff, pharmaceutical stuff in North America, right? We need this stuff, rare earth minerals, which China today stopped sending to our country. Okay, so we need this stuff. Shipbuilding. Let's get together with our allies. Where are we going to build some more submarines? Where are we going to build more ships? Who are we going to integrate with? None of this had to happen with China and Mexico till, say, next year. And I'll give you another example. A tariff is simply a tax. It's not a lowering taxes, but at least it's a partially paid for by foreigners. So if he had done a 10% tariff on everybody and declared victory in January on his day of inauguration, not many people would have done anything. He would have collected more revenue. Now it's so high and so dramatic that people are finding different supply chains, not tomorrow, but over the next year. And they've decided to never deal with America again. This morning, the president of France, an ally, comes over, smiles, everybody, Macron. He's like, no more investment in America. He just told companies, no more investment in America. That can't be a good thing, folks.
Let me ask you a question, because again, you're well educated, a Harvard business guy, and a lot of folks just watching television, they're armchair quarterbacking, and everybody forms an opinion. A lot of their uneducated opinions, but they're doing their best. Yeah. The average person, though, hears that Europe charges our automobile factories 4 times higher of a tariff than we charge imports coming in. And people say, well, what's wrong with charging the same? You're going to charge us 40%? We'll charge you 40%. Why are we only charging you 10? You charge us 40. And some people say it's a leveling of the playing field. I'm guessing you would say it's not that simple.
No, well, that's not what we're doing. If indeed you wanted reciprocal tariffs on a country that equalized manufacturing of cars with each other, and they pick a country, charge us 40% for a car coming in from our country, and we charge them nothing, then put a 40% tariff on the cars. Okay. That's not what he's doing. There is a cockamamie, disastrous formula that I tried to find through AI, my friends who are economists. Remember, I hang around with people who are actually economists, right? Through anyone I could find that you would use a formula of taking the amount of deficit of imports, divide that by the total imports, and then magically divide by 2, not 3, not 1, not 2.5, not pi 3.1415, not any. Just do that. There's nobody in the world I have found who can defend that. Now, when I say not one person, now the administration says it came from a think tank within the White House, and it's always been used. It's very normal. I can't find so they're a bunch of liars. There's no need to lie about it. They had to come up with a formula. They made it up just so you made it up.
I love it. Steve Laffey's at home trying to back engineer the Trump formula. Go, this doesn't make any sense.
But there's not a single person you can find on Fox News. You can't find anybody who would say that it's a normal formula. It makes any sense.
Yeah.
But yes, so listen, we can have a trade deficit. Let's say we have a trade deficit with the UK. Let's say it's with France. And let's say part of it's due to non-trade barriers. And France is well known, famous for non-trade barriers. I'll give you an example. Back in the day, this is a long time ago, when Japanese cars started coming into the market, and we let them erroneously come into our country with no manufacturer in our country until the Plaza Accords and Reagan changed that without destroying the world. He just changed it, right? So Toyotas are made here, Subarus are made here, blah, blah, blah. France didn't do anything, but their non-trade barriers were like this. And I'll be a little bit hyperbolic. A little old lady sits at the dock, and she has to process every car coming in for Japan. She can only do 3 a day. That's a true story. There was no trade barrier. They just had to have a lady. There was a lady, and she was sitting there, and that's so 3 a day. So they didn't have to have. So that is a problem. That is one big problem. Let's deal with it.
Yeah.
Right?
The voice of Steve Laffey. Steve, one more quick question. Again, I've been watching the frenzy all around me on all the cable channels of business news. One of the arguments I heard somebody say, we can, some manufacturing you need to get here. Pharmaceuticals are fine. But, this whole thing about shoes and shirts and little trinkets at the store, Americans are not wanting, and they don't care enough to have to pay high prices. Well, what about the human rights issues with the Uyghurs in China? Doesn't matter. Americans like their cheap stuff and their dollar item goods. What's your thought of that?
Well, my thought is that the president gets on and explains to him that the Uyghurs are in concentration camps and shows the fences and the electric fences and shows what's happening to people and says, we have a real problem. And here's what we're going to do about it. And we're going to raise tariffs until they become a democracy. And eventually we're not going to trade with them. And a lot of this manufacturing will have to go to, some of it will initially go to Vietnam. Some of it will go here. Some of it will, folks, I would say, will not come back to America because we're not going to have this kind of pollution to make certain things.
Yeah.
But the higher end stuff and a concerted effort of making enough so that if there is a war to be fought, number one, we can make all of it. Big diesel engines, which we really don't make, right? We assemble, we don't really make. We can do a lot of that stuff. But it just takes several years. I mean, the ultimate example I gave you guys a couple of weeks ago is that it would take 8 years to build an aluminum smelting plant in our country to get it going. And it would be higher cost than what comes in from Canada. The other real problem is when these tariffs now are hitting is that many products, when it comes to, say, some of these industries, go back and forth across borders, Canada, Mexico, before they're actually assembled. And that the tax is going to be paid every which way. So if indeed the President of the United States doesn't find an off-ramp on this and declare victory, 3 weeks from now, you will start to see the shortages and prices will be higher. Now, if he sucks it up and we do it for a couple of years, I guess people will stop building. But here's the other problem. Since he's changed his mind and people have added it up 85 times, that's the most recent thing about what I'll do, what I won't do, 25, I could do this, I could do. It's a national emergency, but we can negotiate. Well, you don't negotiate national emergency. So the problem is he has narcissism and he can't find an off-ramp. And he doesn't understand because he thought Z would back down the first time. Then he went to 100% on China 2 days ago, and China came back at 84%. This stuff can't go on, or not only will we not have 3% economic growth, we'll have 3% negative growth. It feeds in also to the oil industry. Remember, Scott Bessent wants this is the stated goal of our administration, 3% growth in GDP, 3 million barrels of oil equivalents increased in our country, and 3% debt to GDP. I sent you over what I think it's going to be. It's going to be -2 growth if they go this way. It's going to be 0 or less because oil production is going down in this country today, which means people are going to get laid off in Midland, Texas pretty soon. And it's going to be a 9% debt to GDP, which is why interest rates, when the Fed cut interest rates, and at that time, the 10-year yield was 3.67. Today, it's 4.45. They should go down. They went up.
Yep. Because
the bond vigilance, and here's what's actually going to happen if we don't have an off-ramp. We're going to have a crisis in the bond market, and the bond vigilantes will speak, and then Congress will have to raise everybody's taxes. And that's going to happen.
Steve Laffey. There's our bumper. We got to go to a little commercial break here. It's Steve Laffey and Lakey. We're both unleashed today, Steve. Enjoy the gym.
Great show. You're doing great. I love it.
Thanks, my friend. Appreciate you. Everybody stand by. Lakey Unleashed. His website, stevelaffey.com. Everybody stick around. There is more to come. Lakey Unleashed. Unleashed. No, I'm unleashed. Okay. Everybody stick around. More to come.
1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning is on call 24/7, even on weekends and holidays. We pride ourselves in our on-time guarantees. In addition to installation and repairs, we offer maintenance services. So no matter when you need us, you can always count on 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning to keep your system running. Check out our family of brands for all of your service needs, including electrical and plumbing.
1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
All right, I'm back. Nice to have. Why did I fix this? Big news on the show today. I wanted to give you the big news. You ready for the big news? We announced it in the first half of the program. Here's how things are changing. The daily update is staying the same. We're going to be right here and continue to do the Lord's work as the Lord allows us to do it. We're going to do that. But we're changing some other things up. Number one, we're launching this also. This is what we call a streamcast. It's a live stream, right? And you can still watch it, but you got to go to like Twitter. You got to go. We have not put the show on the podcasting platforms. So as of today, you go to all of the podcast platforms. We're on the iHeart, we're on the Apple Podcasts, we're on most of the big ones out there. Spotify, we're there. And what you do is you find us, just look up Jimmy Lakey or Lakey Unleashed, and you'll see probably a couple of my items, but look up the Unleashed and go subscribe there. And every day, right after this live show ends, we will then put it out as a podcast drop, and people that aren't able to tune in live will be able to listen to it throughout the day. So we will now be further distribution, not just on all the platforms we're on, the Facebook pages we're streaming live on now, the X pages we're streaming live, the Rumble page, the Instagram, the YouTube. All this is going out live, but now on all the major podcasting platforms, we will also then put the show up minutes after it happens. It will be out there on all of the distribution channels out there. And also another big change for you is if you have been following our Patreon page, if you've been a paid subscriber, good news for you, I guess, is that a couple of days ago, we paused all billing on that. We are pausing all billing, no longer going to bill your card, because all the products that we have been keeping behind a paywall are going to be on that Lakey Unleashed podcast. So it will be free content out there. So if you want to see this week, so we've been teasing that JFK interview with Robert Tannenbaum about Oswald Lee Harvey Oswald did not shoot or kill JFK. That is now live right now on all the streaming podcast platforms out there. So Patreon users, if you've been subscribing $9.95 a month, we're stopping it. There's not going to be any more paid content at this time behind the paywall. You're not going to be billed. Billing was already stopped a few days ago. And we're moving things slowly from the Patreon, even the historical stuff from 2-3 months ago. We'll slowly gravitate that. But go to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe. Search Lakey Unleashed on your favorite podcast. And that's kind of a new thing. And again, we're just playing what's called an algorithm. It's a fancy word. We're playing the numbers game. And the numbers are what matter in this thing. And also, if you want the video, if you're listening to this show on the podcast platform and you're just hearing it, always remember that you can watch the show live on all the other platforms out there, or go back and watch it in arrears on live on the Rumble or YouTube, and it's all stored there. So anyway, there's some big news. Patreon is changing, and you are going to get more access to more content, I think, and just subscribe. So even if you watch the live show, put it on your podcast platform, subscribe, and that way you get reminded. And that way you will just hear the interviews as they pop in. I got an interview coming up today in just about an hour or so in the House of Lakey studio, and it's going to be a great topic. And that's going to go out not behind a Patreon wall, this one when it's done in a day or so, once we let it rest and nurture and get it all ready to go. Guess what's going to happen? It's going to go up to it's going to on this on the podcast platform, and all of you will have access to what would have been a paid behind the paywall. These are going to be long form interviews, and also another little tweak. We're working on some new stuff for the critical mission. It's going to be a lot more spoken word, and that's also going to be fun as well. All right, a couple of stories I still want to get to. Read the piece on Kevin O'Leary on tariffs. Again, I've just been taking it all in. There's a lot smarter than me about this stuff, and everybody's got opinions. Laffy, I like his opinion. I think he's got a lot of wisdom here, and I think there are some obvious things that probably don't make sense to me. And if they don't make sense to Laffy, that kind of scares me. I was trying to figure out that calculus also. I thought this was reciprocal, but the numbers are still wrong. I didn't get that. Well, there was a contentious interview last week with Shark Tank co-host and Canadian mogul Kevin O'Leary, and he was defending Trump's tariff policies, arguing that they represented a behemoth negotiation. The appearance came after a stock market loss on Yahoo Finance. O'Leary says, we've never done this. We've never taken on the entire globe. He said that there's two aspects of the tariffs reciprocity. I can't even say it without the coffee and specificity. So he's talking about, it's an interesting take. It's a little bit different than what Steve Laffy has. But again, get all the information, then you make a wise decision. But if I'm going to listen to people on tariffs, I'm going to listen to people like a Steve Laffy. I listen to a guy like Kevin O'Leary, as opposed to somebody that has real pretty hair and went to journalism school and maybe took a finance class, and now they have a job as an anchor, and they're giving opinions on that, and some of them are not necessarily the most qualified. So anyway, I'll please put that story out. It's Kevin O'Leary. You can find it at Western Journal, and it's a really interesting story of that. Biden. The border. I think this is a funny story. Anybody remember old Jasmine Crockett, congresswoman from the Dallas, Texas area? And boy, every time she opened her mouth a couple of weeks ago, hatred spewed and idiocy came out, and you didn't know that so much ignorance could come out of one mouth. I mean, you just didn't know. And then Jasmine Crockett spoke, and you said, wow, that's a whole lot of stupidity. Well, Jasmine has spoken again. And this is her being angry at Donald Trump for getting rid of the immigrants. Let me read the story. Representative Jasmine Crockett, a member of the far left group of progressive lawmakers known as the Squad, told historic black church. So she goes to a black church, historically black church. I think it's just black church, historically black church. So that's an interesting description of it. And she tells the constituents there that America needs robust immigration. Bring the illegals back. That's what she's thinking. You know why she said? She looked at all the people in the black church and said, because we done picking cotton. We done picking cotton. So Crockett, who represents Texas' 30th congressional district, made the remarks during Grace Baptist Church 125th anniversary celebration that's held over the weekend. And the comments were part of her broader attempt to slam Trump for cracking down on illegals. She said, so I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for us, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants. The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go farm right now. Ain't none of y'all trying to go farm right now. I'm quoting her. Okay, I'm lying? You're not? You're not? We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation. So a little controversy there. That shows. Remember, that was the when Trump first started the deportation, people on The View and that mentality were like, who's going to clean our houses? Who's going to clean our toilets? Who's going to pick our blueberries? Oh my goodness. And it really just showed you the dehumanization of how Democrats view these migrants. They don't view them as people coming here to necessarily contribute greatness to America. They see them as cheap labor, and who's going to pick the blueberries, and we ain't going to go pick cotton. That's above us, and so we're gonna have to bring these immigrants in here to do these nasty jobs. So anybody that thinks that the Democrats or Jasmine Crockett are spewing love and adoration for all humanity, they're not. They see their class, their high class, and they see people that are going to come in and do the jobs that they're too proud to do. Now there may be some jobs that we do have to keep overseas. There's some crops we don't, as Laffy said, primarily we're not going to have a great blueberry or avocado harvest in, let's say, January. That's why avocados go down in price in the summer, because the supply goes up. We can get some here in America, but you get the idea. But Jasmine Crockett out there saying the quiet part out loud. She says, we're done picking cotton, bring the illegals back. Of course, she was the one that also called Governor Abbott Hot Wheels a couple of weeks ago and had a bunch of other stupid stuff that she says. Jasmine Crockett, the gift that keeps on giving. And I still would like to hold to my prediction that eventually there's going to be a breakup of the squad and a little feud. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert are known as conservative firebrands, that they are known to have a little conflict. And again, I know Lauren, and I like Lauren, and you sometimes wonder how much of the conflict is because one person or both people like the spotlight more than the others. Did Marjorie Taylor Greene say, why does she get all the attention? I don't know the behind the scenes, but I'm thinking that same type of conflict will someday break out as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tries to become the queen of the universe and the darling of the Democrat Party, and Bernie Sanders eye candy on his arm all the time. If Jasmine Crockett sometimes doesn't say things, saying, you know what, she was just a barmaid. She was just a barkeep. She knew how to make a Long Island iced tea. That was her specialty. And she knew how to put salt on the rim of a glass of a margarita. And now she's making a hell of a lot of money in Congress, and she's famous. She's got cameras, and she just said stupid stuff that made no sense. Well, Jasmine Crockett raises her hand and said, if saying stupid stuff and making no sense can get you richness and fame and fortune, I'll say stupid stuff like we done picking cotton, and Jasmine is the gift that keeps on giving. There's one other funny story about the border, and we're going to dismiss class here in just a moment. One more reminder, the big changes here is that Biden had a border app that has now backfired. I like the alliteration. Biden's border app backfires. Here's what was happening during the Joe Biden administration. The pro-illegal immigration crowd came up with a genius idea. And you can find this story in the Western Journal, that in order to better wave immigrants into America, like a matador with a southern border cape, he says, let's put it on an app. And so the app was called CBP1. And it would enable aliens without appropriate documents. So we say that again, without appropriate documents for admission who seek to travel to the United States through some southwest border land ports, point of entry, the ability to submit their information without the appropriate documents, just submit their information through a mobile app within the app, and then instead of coming directly to wait at the point of entry. So they could just submit it and pass on through. We've submitted it, nothing to see here, go on through. The app, which facilitated online scheduling of appointments at the ports, was used by almost 1 million entrants before they got parole and led into the United States. When President Donald Trump took office, he ended the use on the app. And on Tuesday, he announced that anyone who was waived into the United States via the app will now be deported. So these are people that Joe Biden said, I know it's very busy, the port of entry, and you need to go wait there. But if you'll just fill out the information in the app, come on through, and we'll wave you through, and we'll deal with you later. Just come on by. And Donald Trump stopped that, and he says because they were given entry via the app, it's made it easy for officials to contact these people as well. A message has been sent by the Department of Homeland Security, known as the CBP Home, and told individuals that their parole status was now being terminated over the next week, and encouraged them to self-deport. The notice from Department of Homeland Security to the over 1 million people that self-waived into the country just because of an app, no check of ID, no screening them, just they put information in an app and they walked across the border. The Department of Homeland Security says if you do not depart the United States immediately, you will be subject to potential law enforcement actions that will result in your removal from the United States unless you have otherwise obtained a lawful basis to remain here. That's the message in the app. Again, DHS is terminating your parole. Do not remain in the United States. The federal government will find you. Please depart the United States of America immediately. And Christy Nome says we have full authority to do this, and canceling these parolees that just simply filled out information in an app. No proof that they were who they were, no proof that they had any documents, and they just put information in an app, and Joe Biden waved them on through, and they paroled them until they could have a proper hearing, and they got to wander about our streets. And you wonder how many of these were the Trinidad Rockwell guys. Just use the app, put your information in, walk right across, no screening, no background check, And that's what was happening with the Biden administration. So the Biden app has backfired because now the DHS knows exactly how to contact all those people. And I believe you, if it's going to an app, it's going to a cell phone. And I bet they're watching the pings on those cell phones. I bet they are, because these are parolees whose paroles have been revoked. And now they have a direct order to evacuate America immediately. All right, what else do I have? Jasmine Crockett, Biden's app backfires. Oh, there's a little tiff. It's always funny to watch. They blow this up. I guess it's Peter Navarro's he's a Trump advisor, and Elon Musk. They called each other bozos, and the media tried to say, oh, look at the Trump team's breaking up. And I thought they handled it very well yesterday. They handled it very well, said, hey, boys will be boys. Let them find it out. They're grown men. And if Peter Navarro has a dissenting opinion from Elon Musk, you're allowed to dissent with each other in this administration. And I just wanted you to watch that story that they really tried to blow it up that something was really chaotic. And the White House didn't take the bait. They didn't take the drama. They said there's no palace intrigue here. There's nothing to get all feisty about. It's all going to be okay. So shut your pie hole and let's move forward. Now, there is another story I find quite interesting, and I'm not sure I'd waste my breath on it, but I don't mind it happening. J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States, has said that Mitch McConnell has a case of political pettiness. You might not have followed this. You thought all the big confirmation hearings were done. Well, they're not. The Senate yesterday voted to confirm Eldridge Colby. He's an undersecretary of defense for policy. Decided to be the only Republican that voted against him. Now, even Democrats voted for him. Colby was confirmed 54-45, and McConnell was the only Senate Republican to vote against Eldridge Colby, while 3 Democrats voted for Colby. And President Donald Trump announced Colby as the pick for Pentagon when he was president-elect. Eldridge Colby, they said, has a long record of willingness to discount the complexity of challenges facing America. And the urgent need to, and this is what McConnell says, need to invest in hard power to preserve American primacy. So McConnell says no. And so J.D. Vance wasn't going to have any of that. And he said J.D. Vance spoke out in support of Colby and said, this is a severe case. I've never seen anything so politically petty as what Mitch McConnell's doing. Other than a couple of stories about judges, is there anybody that's going to be sad about Mitch McConnell leaving the U.S. Senate? I mean, you want to talk about a case for term limits and the turtle, that would be probably one of them. And if you're watching in Kentucky, I would love for you to give us inside information. Who do you think is going to be the replacement for Mitch McConnell? I think that's going to be a very interesting race to watch. Who's going to replace Mitchell McConnell? All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Lakey here on the program. We're going to do the meme roulette, but I want once again reaffirm the new distribution channels for this program. As soon as this show is done, in just a couple of minutes, it will spin up into the Googles, and it will be landing on a news podcast, and it will be a daily podcast that features this show. So if you ever miss the live television version, video version, all you got to do is go to all of your favorite podcast apps of the wherever you listen to the podcast app, the iHeart, the Spotify, the Apple Podcast, the Podbean, I think there's several of them. You just go find us there. It's just look up Jimmy Lakey or Lakey Unleashed, and all of this content will continue the live program, but will also now be available after the fact, within minutes after the show, as a podcast. It's going to grow our audience, and we want you to subscribe and share the word. So please subscribe on that. And also, what we're also doing, if you're just joining us, and you're a Patreon follower, you know we've had patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. That is drawing to a conclusion. A couple of days ago, we paused all billing on the Patreon account. The $9.95 a month is no longer active, and it's not going to be active because all the interviews that we're doing, the long-form interviews that I do that were behind a paywall, those will actually be moving out to podcast format. And you're going to like hearing those as well. There's going to be audio format, and we'll put a video format up on the YouTube page. So there's a couple of little changes. The biggest change is if you've been subscribing, I just saved you $9.95 a month. But you have an obligation now to go like us on wherever you listen to podcasts, and any content that we put out, whether it's the live show and you miss part of it, or whether it's an interview that I've done with Dennis Neal last week, or Robert Tannenbaum, and the one I'm about to do here in just a minute. All of our content is now going to be free, and there's no longer a subscription needed. All you got to do is subscribe for free on the podcast platform to Lakey Unleashed. Also, there's another podcast you'll see out there. It's the Critical Mission podcast. The Lakey Unleashed is about politics. The Critical Mission link that you'll see on all the libraries is about purpose and inspirational stories. One's politics, one's purpose, like both of them, because we're going to be adding some new inspirational content up on the Critical Mission podcast that I think you will really enjoy. It's coming up. So big changes on the podcast front, and more content coming than ever before. And it's all free. We just need you to go like it. We need you to share it. We need you to tell your neighbors and tell your friends, tell your mother. She's already called me and said you have permission to tell all your friends about this. So please, we're asking you to do so. But again, Patreon, we loved you, but your billing has been paused. It was paused a couple of days ago once we decided to make this decision. And that way, while we were making the transition, we did not want anybody to lose $9.95, knowing that moving forward, we're putting some of the back stock up on the podcast pages, but moving forward, nothing new will go up on the Patreon page. Everything new will be up on the podcast. So go like us, Lakey Unleashed, and also don't forget, give some love to the Critical Mission. I appreciate you doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what I have in my right hand? That is a globe. It is a cheap little prop because we don't have another wheel, but we say we play meme roulette, and it goes like this, and say it with me if you want. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows, but we're going to steal some memes here. And let's see. Here we go. NASA has sent a rover over to search for intelligent life on the View. This is true. By the way, if you're listening on the podcast version, audio only, you can always watch the show live back on Rumble, or you can go to YouTube, look up Lakey Unleashed, look up my name. And if you want to see the actual memes on the screen, you have to go to the video portion of that. Let's do it. The View. It's hard to believe that they survive. Round and round the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Where we still, there it is. So let me make this bigger so I can see it. In yet another cruel blow to China, General Tso's chicken is renamed to General Don's Oriental Chicky Nugs. General Don's Oriental Chicken Nugs. Chicky Nugs. Round and around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows where they're coming from this time. Producer Chad, the meme machine. Trump is undoing everything we've accomplished, says Barry Obama. And here comes old Donald and his chicky nugs walking across the White House lawn and said, yeah, that's the whole point. That is true. The whole point of doing everything we've accomplished. That's probably a good thing. Round and around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows where we're stealing this one from. This meme is coming up. Speaking of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you got some agents, the federal agents there. Hey, so bartender, let's pour us a few drinks. And let's talk about your net worth for a bit. There's a lot of members of Congress that we should be talking about their net worth. Nancy Pelosi being one of them. How did you get so rich on that trading and stuff? Well, you're a genius trader. There's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Oh, the questions that should be asked of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. A lot of questions. Let's do another one. I think we got another meme to steal. Round around the world we go. Where we steal the meme from, no one knows. I'm the captain of a conversation, I see. Here's a billboard I wish it actually existed, and we stole that from the DonaldTrump.hq. Cry all you want. He's doing exactly what I hired him to do. What I hired him for. How many of you feel that way? I'm still feeling good. I get the Steve Laffey perspective on the tariffs. I get the Kevin O'Leary. I've heard all sorts of opinions, and I think all of them. I'm watching it closely, but I'm still. He's doing what I hired him to do, and just the people that are hating on him, they start hating him. It's yeah. Arloa says it's so much easier to listen to as a podcast, which is why I'm a little behind in listening to all the episodes on Patreon. Well, Arloa, we're solving that problem for you, and we would do anything for Arloa. A lovely Arloa in Texas, if I recall. She's a Texan down there watching us. Captain of the conversation. Let's see, we have any other memes in the meme machine. Have we milked it dry? Round around the world we go. Have we stolen any more memes from where we don't know? Ladies and gentlemen, we have milked the meme machine dry. So again, let me reiterate. Go right now to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to Lakey Unleashed. Just type in my name. You'll probably see the Critical Mission. I think iHeart still has all my old shows on library because those were big hits. And they're still living off the glory of Lakey. They're still promoting my show that I haven't been on in 6 months. Figure that one out. It's a lot of pride in local programming, isn't it? Still promoting my program. Jimmy Lakey in the morning. Join us May 17th. The gala, the casino night gala, and I hope you'll plan to be here. Especially, I just saved you $9.95 a month, Patreon people. So now you have $9.95 a month, and you could buy a ticket not for $9.95, but you can add a little bit to it. A lot to it, and come to our casino gala. It's all for fun. It's educational. If you've ever wanted to play blackjack but not have to risk losing money, well, this is your place because there's no risk of losing money. We're playing with Monopoly money. It's all for fun and education, and it's all raising benefit money for Rivers Promise. And it's presented by our friends at Budget Home Supply in Longmont, Colorado. And my pen just fell back on my back somewhere. I had a pen hooked on the back of my shirt. Don't ask how I had a pen hooked up back there, but I did. I do. I put my sunglasses back there too sometimes, and they fall. All right, Budget Home Supply. They present this whole thing. It's going to be a great night, live music and entertainment. Cash Bar is going to be there. We'd love to have you there. Producer Chad will be there. I'll be there. And it's our casino gala. We do two big fundraisers a year, public fundraisers. We have some private fundraisers, big fundraisers a year for Rivers Promise. We do them twice a year. Our golf tournament is, of course, one of them. And then the casino gala is springtime. And we'd love to have you be a part of it. Go to riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. And boom, right up top, you will see the ability to register for the local for the events. And also, don't forget, I sent an email out yesterday, and I'll talk more about this tomorrow, but in Rwanda where we work, it's something called Kwibuka. It's 31 years of Kwibuka, meaning a time to remember after the Rwandan genocide. And if you're on my mailing list, you got that email yesterday, and I appreciate you supporting us any way you can. $30 fees a kid, 2 meals a day for a month, 65 fees in the meal, also sends them to school and provides your health insurance and health care as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure to be here today. Don't forget, go subscribe. A lot of new content. There's no Patreon. You're free. You are not being charged. We stopped the billing on that a couple of days ago, and we are now preparing, and everything has already moved. So go find us on wherever you listen to podcasts. You will find us there, and we would appreciate your love and support. We're trying to grow the numbers. You can help us grow the numbers. So thanks for watching us live. And for those of you that are now listening on a podcast version, don't forget we go live on all the major platforms out there, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Mountain, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific time. In the meantime, till we meet again, whether in the live stream or whether on the podcast field, may God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.